What is up, my beautiful people? Exile451 here, coming at you with another daily dose of Reddit happy. Going back into r/Ask Reddit today for a topic I think a lot of you are gonna enjoy. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe button if you like the video. Now, given what we're talking about today, I'm not gonna do a whole lot of commentary until the end. Now sit back, relax, and get ready to hear some great stories about rescue pets. My mother lives on a dead-end street at the top of a hill. It overlooks a large park and the city zoo. It is a favorite dumping ground for kittens and unwanted cats. A couple of weeks ago, I was at my mother's house and I stumbled across a kitten that was about 2 to 3 weeks old. I managed to catch it and took it to a vet as it had a cold in its eyes and for a general checkup. An exam and $100 later, and the kitten was on its way to good health. I discovered that it had deformed front feet with only 3 toes on each paw. The claws are constantly extended. I decided to keep it and took it home for my 12-year-old daughter. We had lost a cat or 2 months earlier and she was devastated at the time. When my daughter came home from school and discovered the surprise kitten, she was so happy she cried. It was a beautiful moment. Due to the deformity, the kitten runs kind of funny. She has a weird gait to her. While looking for a name for her, that is a female, I was calling the kitten Ol 3 Toes and suggested Fritos as a name. 3 Toes became Fritos. She joins Oreo, for obvious reasons, another cat, and Cletus, I call him Stupid, the dog. My first dog, Pepsi, was originally owned by a disabled man who got her as a pup. I don't know how disabled he was, but he would never take her on walks and leave her alone in his flat for most of the day. She'd get bored and would chew the furniture, so he'd beat her. Poor thing was abused so much, his neighbor decided to take her, despite having 3 dogs already. She spoiled her rotten and eventually had to move, giving her to us. She was afraid of all men, especially men on crutches. I had to train her to get used to me being on crutches, as I often was. She went from being terrified and aggressive to being my big softie who lets me carry her like a baby. She's now 15 and enjoys life. Both of my cats are rescues. The oldest one was in a shelter for a while, then spent over a month in a PetSmart. Nobody wanted her because she went psycho every time you picked her up, and she was a few months older. She wasn't outright friendly like the other kittens. I happen to have a soft spot for gray animals and calicos, and she's a deluded calico. I talked my fiance into adopting her, and she's now his baby girl. She sleeps between us on the bed, curls up on his lap whenever he sits, and lets him hold her like a baby. She wouldn't go near me during my first pregnancy. Always ran after him when he left the bed, and it was a struggle to even pet her. She became the world's sweetest cat after my miscarriage, and would only leave me to eat and use her litter. She got me through a lot those first few weeks. And then a little further down in the comments, cats always know when you need help the most. She is so sweet for my emotional issues. My dog helped me walk last pregnancy when there was snow and ice everywhere. I fell in about 3.5 feet of snow and couldn't get any grip to get myself up because my hands kept pushing deeper into the snow, and Bear got under my arm so I could push on him to get up. He then refused to leave my side until I was out of the deep snow. Animals are just amazing. I also have a rescue cat that I ended up adopting because she was super mean and would have been put down if no one else took her because of her age and temperament. She started out as a foster, but I ended up keeping her because she stopped hating me eventually, but still hates everyone else. Her owner was going into hospice and she was really badly neglected for quite a while. No idea how bad the conditions were, but I was told it was a hoarder situation. It took me months of feeding her treats until she would let me touch her. I gradually removed a pound of matted fur and treated the lesions underneath. She is now a well-fed, happy cat who sleeps with me every night and submits to me regularly prodding and pulling at her to prevent dreadlocks from forming. Still hisses and growls at everyone else, but loves me and tolerates the presence of my other cat. I'm always glad when someone gives the cranky old kitties a chance. Dog number 1. He followed me one night when I was on my way home. I saw him out of the corner of my eye, and when I turned around to face him, I saw the saddest looking puppy in the world. I said hello and let him sniff my hand, and in a split second thought, screw it, and picked him up and took him home. He was skinny as crap, filthy, covered in fleas and ticks, and oddly had tiny stumpy whiskers with tiny blobs at the end. Took him to the vet and he wasn't chipped, Obviously no collar either, so I claimed him. Vet reckoned he was 8 months old and had been dumped, massive problem in my country, and that his whiskers looked like they had been burned, possibly with a cigarette. A few weeks later, he was diagnosed with, and I'm probably going to butcher this, leishmaniasis, which I had been told was a horrible death sentence by everyone that wasn't a vet. But 3 months of treatment and he got the all clear. No idea about his past, but he is terrified of old ladies and children, hates new people, hides behind my legs whenever he meets anyone. So I'm confident that he was probably beaten. He turns 10 years old next month, and picking him up that night all those years ago was the best thing I ever did for him and for me. Dog number 2 was picked up by a dog sanctuary in Sicily after being found on the side of the road close to death, covered in dried, bloody scabs and cuts. Apparently, the Sicilians consider dogs as vermin, so it's not uncommon to throw stuff at them or stone them. This was what the people at the sanctuary told me, although I can't verify it. They reckoned she was 4 months old. She spent 2 months convalescing in the sanctuary, who advertises for foster parents on Facebook. I chose her, got her doggy passport, and got her just as she was 6 months old. She's mad, a Tasmanian devil, adores everyone, and especially loves her big brother, dog number 1. She's just turned 3. They are the best furry waggle monsters in the world. Moochie, a Rottweiler and unknown breed mix. He was found by rescuers chained to a pole outside of a druggie's house. He was bone thin, and it's a miracle that he survived. We got him when I was a kid, despite my mom's protest. She was scared that he would attack us because he's very protective of his belongings, food, water, toys, etc. It's understandable given his past. We were little kids, so my mom thought that we would mess with his food and he would get defensive. Moochie grew protective of us and never once attacked us. He would play a little rough because he didn't know his own strength, but other than that, he was a great dog. He actually had to protect me once. I was walking him and a little weenie dog, not on a leash, just ran up and bit my finger. Granted, the dog was barely a threat and only drew some blood, but Moochie went into full protective mode. He bit this dog's neck and it took my mom prying his jaw open to make him let go. And he looked so pleased with himself after, just smiling with blood dripping out of his mouth. I felt really bad for the dog, but it wasn't on a leash and there are leash laws in my state. I'm a Michigander, and we were experiencing a polar vortex. We're talking technically 60 degrees Fahrenheit below the freezing point of water cold. And outside, on a balcony of an abandoned apartment, was a white dove, and she had a band on her leg. She was brought inside and was given food and water. I called a local veterinary clinic that I used to work for. They used to be in contact with local bird breeders. They did not have any contact with pigeon breeders, but recommended that I call a local bird rescue organization. I called the rehab. I explained that the pigeon had a band on her leg, but it didn't identify what club she was from or a contact number. They gave me a number for the president of the local pigeon fancy club. She explained that the pigeon I found was from a racing club and that her band identified her as a non-breeding pigeon. Their clubs cull any slow birds to return, and that the last race was ages ago. I could either surrender her to the owner, found, to have her culled from the flock, turn her to the president of the local pigeon fancy club where she would rehome her, or I could keep her as a pet. And that's the story of how I got a pet pigeon, Lila, the slowest pigeon ever. I love her. Guys, there are so many stories here along these same lines that I could spend a week's worth of videos recording them all and still not get everyone. It's so rewarding to take in a rescue pet because they bring so much to your life and add to your happiness in so many ways. Having been a second home to a beautiful pair of dogs myself, I can say firsthand, there's nothing better than the love of a pet you've given another chance to. If you haven't thought about being a rescue family, please give it consideration. In many ways, those pets end up being better than the ones you can get at a breeder. And they come with so much appreciation because oftentimes they know what it's like to have a more troubled past, and so they appreciate coming into a friendly home so much more. So please, give the idea of taking in a shelter pet or a rescue some serious consideration. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, I'd encourage you to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. I do this every weekday, and I'm so grateful for everyone who comes here to watch these videos. The channel is continuing to grow, and it's all thanks to you guys who support it. I'll see you all tomorrow, everyone. Until then, I'm Exile451. Stay beautiful, people.